So this letter is interesting in that he is writing a letter to the future, but he's using that premise to essentially make an argument or to share a warning, really, about the people in his contemporary present world in 1988. The premise of this letter, of course, is about the environment and the earth, and protecting nature essentially. But rather than write it as a conservationist piece or write a sort of basic argument about the importance of the planet, he uses this format of a letter to 2088 to do so in a creative or rhetorically interesting way. One thing to note in this letter in particular is that he personifies nature. And oftentimes, when we read texts that are um, more environmentally activist, we see nature as this sort of beautiful, loving Mother Nature sort of thing, and Kurt Vonnegut goes the complete opposite route. He calls nature ruthless. He insinuates that she is our enemy, and creates this idea of not protecting the environment but fearing what nature will do, and respecting our own place in that sort of universal hierarchy. So that's a specific rhetorical move that he makes there. He he also speaks to the idea of war. He mentions atomic bombs. He mentions this sort of destruction, and so you can still see these effects of Dresden and that sort of life-changing experience he had showing up in how he makes the arguments here. In the bio video that you watched about him several steps earlier, they identified that he was unimpressed with mankind, generally pretty cynical, generally did not have faith in people, including himself. And you can really see that in this letter, that it's not so much a letter to 2088 as it is a cynical reflection on what he sees as a dismal track that the world is on, both in a natural sense, in a political sense, and in a human sense. Now, your final letter that you will read is called Make Your Soul Grow. And this has a similar sort of bridge as Letter to 2088. This is also a letter to young people, essentially, although the people of 2088 wouldn't have been born. But this is also a letter to sort of giving advice to the next generation, if you will. And this was the exigence of this is that a high school class reached out to a bunch of their favorite authors and asked for their advice, and Kurt Vonnegut was one of the only people who responded. This was sent in 2006 and he passed in 2007, so this was sort of the this was at the end of his life. And with this one, you want to think about how some of the how you sort of see his tone, his impression, and his ideas about the world sort of come full circle with this last piece. Overall, you want to be thinking about what sort of unites all of these ideas, giving you four very different letters with very different tones, very different techniques. But these were all written by the same man over a course of 60 years of his life. You want to think about what commonalities you can sort of see in the way that he uses rhetoric and what sort of unites all of his ideas and rhetorical moves in these letters.